The aircraft shuddered, coffee spilled, a baby cried, and startled passengers gripped their armrests as the Boeing 777 dipped sharply in the midnight sky. It wasn't the kind of turbulence that made people chuckle nervously. It was sharper, deliberate, as if the plane itself had flinched. In seat 12F, a woman's eyes flew open. Dr. Evelyn Archer had been dozing lightly, her head tilted toward the window, but now her instinct screamed that something wasn't right. She pressed her palm to the cold glass and peered out into the darkness. At first, there was only cloud and moonlight. Then, like shadows tearing free of the night, two shapes slid into view. Sleek, predatory, fighter jets. Her breath caught. The narrow silhouettes of F-22 Raptors danced along the airliner's wing, their navigation lights glowing faintly red and green. They were close, too close. Around her, passengers stirred. "What's happening?" whispered a nervous college student 2 rows ahead. A businessman gripped the seat in front of him. A mother hushed her child, her voice trembling. Evelyn didn't answer. Her pulse raced, but not from fear. She knew that formation. She knew those Raptors. She had flown with pilots like them. Once upon a time, when her name carried weight in every hangar, and her call sign had been spoken with reverence. The ghosts of her past were flying alongside her now. The intercom crackled, every ear straining for the captain's voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Reynolds. We've been contacted by military command. Everything is under control, but we are being temporarily escorted through restricted airspace. Please remain calm and stay seated." Murmurs rippled through the cabin. Military escorts for a civilian flight? That wasn't routine. Something was wrong. Evelyn pressed her lips together. It had been years since she last heard the growl of a jet engine from the cockpit, but the sound was written into her bones. She had lived her life at Mach speed. She had carried a call sign that could still snap pilots to attention. Valkyrie. She hadn't spoken it out loud in years. A flight attendant hurried down the aisle, her hands clasped nervously. She tried to smile at the passengers, but her eyes betrayed the truth. She was scared. When she reached Evelyn's row, she noticed how calm she looked, how sharply her gaze followed the Raptors outside. "Ma'am, are you all right?" the attendant whispered. Evelyn studied her a moment, then spoke quietly, but firmly. "Tell the captain he needs to send a message to those Raptors. Say Valkyrie is on board." The attendant blinked. "Excuse me?" Evelyn leaned closer, her tone leaving no room for doubt. "Repeat my words. Valkyrie is on board." The attendant nodded quickly and rushed to the cockpit. Inside the flight deck, Captain Reynolds and his first officer, Daniel Mercer, were already tense. The Raptors had issued instructions to divert, though air traffic control insisted their course was correct. The mixed signals made no sense. Then, the attendant slipped inside and repeated Evelyn's message. "Valkyrie?" Captain Reynolds frowned. "What is that supposed to mean?" But Daniel Mercer went rigid. His jaw slackened. He remembered the name. Every young pilot did. Valkyrie, the woman who redefined impossible maneuvers, who set records that still stood, who led missions in skies where survival odds were near zero. She wasn't a story. She was legend. "But she disappeared," Daniel whispered. 10 years ago. Walked away from everything." The captain's brows drew together. "And you think she's an economy? C-12F?" Daniel swallowed hard. "If she says she's Valkyrie, then she is." Reynolds hesitated, then pressed the comms button. "Raptor leader, this is Flight 72. Be advised, passenger aboard identifies with call sign Valkyrie. Repeat, Valkyrie is on board." For a long moment, silence. Then the radio crackled back, disbelief heavy in the pilot's voice. "Say again?" "Valkyrie is on board," Reynolds repeated. Inside the Raptors, two young pilots exchanged stunned glances. Every fighter pilot knew the name. The Valkyrie wasn't just another ace. She was the standard they measured themselves against. And suddenly, they weren't escorting a random civilian jet. They were escorting their legend. Back in her seat, Evelyn exhaled slowly. She didn't need confirmation. She could feel the shift in the Raptors' formation. Their movements grew tighter, protective. The businessman across the aisle stared at her. "Do you know them?" Evelyn's lips curved faintly. "Something like that." Whispers filled the cabin as passengers pressed to the windows, but Evelyn tuned them out. She was lost in memories, the roar of afterburners, the weight of her helmet, and the way her call sign had once commanded respect in war rooms and cockpits alike. She had left it all behind for a quieter life. Lectures, research, obscurity. But the sky hadn't forgotten her. As the airliner neared Washington's airspace, the Raptors prepared to break off. Protocol dictated a silent departure, but protocol wasn't what drove them now. One Raptor dipped its wing in a long, deliberate gesture. A salute. Evelyn's throat tightened. She lifted her hand, pressing it against the window, acknowledging the tribute. For a brief second, she wasn't just Dr. Evelyn Archer, mild-mannered passenger in 12F. She was Valkyrie again, the woman who once ruled the sky. The Raptors peeled away, vanishing into the darkness. As the cabin lights brightened for landing, chatter buzzed like static. Why were those jets here? Did something happen? Who is Valkyrie? Evelyn said nothing. She collected her bag and waited patiently as the others fumbled with overhead bins. The businessman tried once more. "Ma'am, forgive me, but you don't seem like just another passenger. Who are you?" Evelyn met his eyes. For a moment, he saw it. The steel, the fire, the unshakable calm of someone who had once danced with death at 40,000 feet. But all she said was, "Just Evelyn." Then she slipped into the flow of disembarking travelers, her figure vanishing into the tide of ordinary lives.